Thank you to Leo and the team for having Aera to be part of the event today. What we do is we have a software solution that enables a cognitive operating system for enterprises and enables them to transform into what we call the self-driving enterprise. Now, having used the word transform, there's a terminology that I'm quite fatigued about, which is called digital transformation. I think we're all familiar with it in one capacity or another, but I'd like to think what I'm going to share with you today demonstrates a transformation that is real and is being used by companies today. So I'm going to talk in the abstract in the form of a cognitive operating system focused around the elements that make up what we call the self-driving enterprise. And to do that, what I'm going to do is to really focus on something we're all familiar with. We may not necessarily agree with it, but autonomous vehicles in one shape or form are coming, be they trains, be they buses, be they cars. And if you think about cars from the perspective of when they were commercially available, and I think everybody agrees the first commercially available car was the Model T Ford from back in 1908. Good old Henry Ford, you could get that any colour you want as long as it was black. And if you think about cars today, certain things have changed. They're safer, they're faster, they're more comfortable. But over the course of 100 years, one thing hasn't changed. Anybody care to hazard a guess as to what that could be? Steering wheel? Okay, I'll pay that. Think about the intelligence of the car. The operating system. What's the operating system on a Model T Ford or a car today? It's still the human being, right? Fundamentally, the operating system hasn't changed, right? We still need to make the decisions in relation to the process of driving. Now that really hasn't changed until now, or is in the process of changing now. So if you look at what companies such as Waymo, the Google-owned company, and Tesla are doing, they're actually digitizing the process of driving. Right? So Waymo has said that they've racked up 5 million miles as part of this exercise that they're doing, not across one vehicle, but across their fleet, and they built some institutional memory around the process of driving. Now, whether it takes them another 5 million miles or 10 million miles, once they've digitized driving, it's done, right? It's there, right? Fundamentally able to be built on and used on collectively. So if we look to explore the concept of an autonomous vehicle a little bit further and start to look at the characteristics that are associated with an autonomous vehicle, using that as an analogy to move to a cognitive operating system for the enterprise. If you think about that vehicle, it has a brain. It has to have a brain. And think of that in terms of the cognitive operating system. And if you think about that operating system, it needs to be connected outside and in. So inside, it's looking at the gauges, the tire pressure, the speed, other instrumentation. Outside, it's keeping abreast of the terrain you're driving within, other vehicles on the road, pedestrians, etc. It's using GPS, it's using radar, it's using LiDAR, all of these elements to ensure that it understands what's taking place. And the other characteristic is that these activities that are taking place, they're happening in real time and they're always on, right? They're not running a batch process and then coming back and updating what's taking place. They're fundamentally on 24/7, and as a result of the fact that the car has been taught or has how to drive, it's thinking and it's learning. So effectively, it's using the capability it's received from a programming standpoint to assess, digest, analyze, and use the information that it's given such that it has the ability to act autonomously. So if it sees a red light, it doesn't send me a message saying, would you like me to apply the brake? It does that. If it sees a curve in the road, it doesn't tell me I'm going to turn the steering wheel, if there is a steering wheel, to the left or the right. It just takes that action. Right? So effectively, if you look at those characteristics of a cognitive operating system, it needs to be connected outside and in. It needs to be real time and always on. It needs to be thinking and learning and have the ability to act autonomously. All right? So if we take away the analogy, if we take away the car, so enough about cars, And I think we've established some elements or characteristics that are associated with the cognitive operating system. And we now look to apply that to an enterprise, an organization. We talked about the capability of a vehicle to be connected outside and in. If you think about that from an organizational standpoint, what might that relate to? What's the fundamental driving mechanism for an organization, for an enterprise? It's the data, right? Right, it's data. So again, the cognitive operating system within the enterprise needs to be able to connect to data within the organization. So any data associated with their system of records, their financial data, their CRM data, their supply chain data, whatever the case is, and it needs to be accessible in real time and at the lowest possible level. What's the lowest possible level? The transactional level. Right? It shouldn't be available in a summarized, in an aggregated view, pulled out on a periodic basis. It should be real time and always on. If you then think about what takes place to that data, it then needs to have the ability to be normalized, harmonized, and correlated so that it is able to leverage some of the capabilities that are consistent with the cognitive operating system in the form of using prescriptive and predictive algorithms to make predictions and recommendations. Now, fundamentally, having predictions or having a predictive outcome without an associated prescriptive outcome really is no use to a business. So again, you've got this data flowing within a business. It's part of the nervous system of a business from your respective sales processes, your inventory processes, your manufacturing processes. That data is being assessed and looked at in real time, and as a result, there are recommendations, there are predictions that are being made, and then subsequently, based on your response to those predictions and recommendations, there are actions. So a cognitive operating system should have the ability around some of the more operationalized tasks to take action. All right, so they're the four characteristics that we're looking at in relation to a cognitive operating system. Now, if we take a step back a little bit, and we'll come back and talk about the data, if you look at what's taking place, using the analogy of what's taking place with the car in terms of digitizing driving, you're actually looking to digitize a process that takes place within an organization. Now, that could be a planner, that could be an analyst, that could be a process associated with an executive. So you're building some executive intelligence within the organization, leveraging this cognitive operating system that's providing a platform that is consistently assessing, analyzing, and highlighting alerts, predictions associated with operational or financial risk or efficiencies. Okay, so this digital twin is working with you and making your life easier based on the metrics and how you've built out this business process. But if you look at organizations today, and I've worked for large organizations, be they SAP, Business Objects, Anaplan, etc., and it never fails to surprise me when I go into a small, medium, or large organization and you talk about their data, it's siloed. Right? So 40 years after transactional systems have come into play in the form of ERP solutions, we're still struggling and having a consistent and timely view of our data. Fundamentally, what's taking place is you've got individuals that are pulling reports, abstracts out in the form of flat files, spreadsheets, analyzing those, gaining input from other planners, collaborating with other users, and then looking to make some decisions, some what-if analysis has taken place, and then they'll write back in the same fashion to those system of records. That process, at a minimum, will take you weeks. So they're actually making decisions on obsolete data. Right? So if I sit with CFOs or we sit with C-level executives and you have a discussion, how would your shareholders think about you actually making decisions on data that is obsolete? Now, for some organizations, it may not be so critical, but most organizations, they will turn around and say, well, that's not what we want to do. And they have spent a lot of time and a lot of money on finding solutions to help them address that. And fundamentally, it hasn't changed. So one of the elements that we spoke about earlier in terms of a cognitive operating system is to be able to provide this harmonized data layer. So really think about it as connecting the dots within a business that allows us to create this cognitive data layer that enables the other elements within the cognitive operating system to start interrogating, creating interdependencies, cross-functional dependencies that are needed to support a particular business user. I think the best analogy I can give, if you think of Google and what they did in relation to search with regards to websites. So they would fundamentally take a copy of the website, they would then normalize and index the website so they could then search that, and then they commercialize that through AdWords. Fundamentally, we're doing the same thing, but with the enterprise data. So if I want to have a 360 view of a customer, not only from a finance perspective in terms of days outstanding in relation to invoicing, the discount we're providing them, I want to know what are the top products that they're using. What are the dependencies within my supply chain associated with those products? I get to see that interdependency. And it's tailored for me as a business user. So connecting the dots is critical, and then ensuring you actually have clean, harmonized data that you can take advantage of to support the next stage within the development of a cognitive operating system, and that's building this layer of intelligence. So from an Aera perspective, we call that the cognitive data layer. And that's the layer where we start to apply these prescriptive and predictive algorithms associated with the data that's been harmonized and normalized to then really teach it the process that needs to be reflected to support the business user. Now, whether that's forecasting, whether that's inventory management, whether that's sales forecasting, demand forecasting, cost material forecasting, etc., that is the process that we would leverage to start teaching, in this case Aera, how that task is performed within that organization. And the concept that we're using is the concept of supervised learning. So Aera will start to use the data that's there. It will then start to make recommendations, and then the business user that's associated with that will either accept or decline those recommendations. And depending upon what takes place, that augmentation and refining process will have the cognitive operating system start to deliver an outcome that makes sense to the individual. And there's a level of trust that's built. So the process that we're going through in terms of building this concept of the self-driving enterprise is an iterative process. And to be fair, if I've spoken to a number of organizations, and if they got to the stage of having their data harmonized, it's kind of like time out. We'll take a break and we'll use that, right? Because we've never seen that before. And then the next stage is, well, you start talking about this capability to start building and digitizing processes for business users. Well, let's talk about where we can have the most effect in relation to that. Is it reducing working capital? Is it driving asset efficiencies? And once we understand what that is, then we work with the business users to build out that skill set such that there's this digital twin working with the business user. We have a client who's a large CPG company, and they talk about planners that now join the company have the ability to be productive from day 2. Right? So they go through their induction, get their laptop, understand where everything is. They're fundamentally asked to make decisions based on their subject matter expertise associated with the business from day 2, and they have everything they need to do that. So you think about that in terms of the institutional memory that's built into the company. So you fundamentally digitize a process, going back to digitizing driving. And what you've done is you've built that institutional memory into the organization. So if that individual takes another job or leaves the company, that learning, that capability is retained. And that's something that organizations, I think, have underrepresented in terms of their ability to bring some competitive advantage to the segment that they play in. So it takes us to the point where we now have a process that's digitized, supporting a business user, and effectively providing this digital twin capability. And as a result, some of the recommendations that are made, and another characteristic of a cognitive operating system is the ability then to execute some of the more operationalized tasks, creation of orders, movement of inventory, etc. And again, this is an iterative process, And it's a process whereby if you implement it, you start to write back to those system of records. And fundamentally, you have the appropriate gates that are there. So there's workflow pushing the recommendation from one business user to another, till you get to a point where, for one of the largest pharma companies in the world, their demand forecasting now is done entirely in Aera, and we write back to their instance of SAP IBP. But that is very much an iterative process. So the characteristics of being able to understand, recommend, predict, and act are really what makes up the ability to provide a self-driving enterprise. And if you think about the implications of that, making the company smarter, retaining institutional memory, and then you speak to organizations about the competitive advantage that provides, it's quite significant. And the advent of cognitive automation within the enterprise, it's here. It's not coming, it is here now. And it's something we need to embrace. And if you think about the B2C space, we've sort of embraced it already. I mean, if I think about my weekends, like many of you, I'm an unpaid Uber driver for my children, taking them from sport, here to there, etc. I use my Google Maps. How do I get from point A to point B? Whilst I'm driving, if Google finds traffic or makes a recommendation to me to take an alternate route, do I question it? I accept it. I'm sure you do too. Google's fundamentally listened to the traffic report. It's looked into the UBD. I don't know if anybody remembers those, Gregory's or UBDs, right? It's found an alternate route, and it's calculated how long it's going to take me to get there. That's my digital twin sitting in my car. That's here today. That type of capability, a digital twin to sit with you within your workplace to help you focus on what's important, to drive the metrics and outcomes for your company, is here today. And that's fundamentally the elements around a self-driving enterprise. So I think if we look at the concept of the digital twin and think it analogous to what's taken place in terms of transactional automation. I'm old enough to remember walking into buildings and seeing floors of people typing away at typewriters or hitting calculators. They're gone. We've accepted and understood how machines and computers can support us in performing certain tasks that we don't need to do. We've now moved from transactional automation to cognitive automation, where we have to accept, based on the amount of data that's out there, that's growing at a rapid rate, that machines will do some things that are better than we can. And if you think about, the advent of the century, what was that? 18 years ago. And if you look at the companies that made up the Fortune 500, greater than half of them no longer make up that list. So the adage of the big eat the small is gone, right? It is the fast eat the slow. And companies that can actually leverage and understand the capabilities that can be provided to provide greater efficiencies and outcomes for them are the ones that are going to succeed. So with that, let me just leave you there and ask you to think about how you're going to use the intelligence within your own organization. Thank you. Thank you.